Hey guys, welcome to the Real Deal video blog, and this week I want to talk to you about something called the 1 year rule. So what is the 1 year rule? What does it mean? Well, in general, it means that people who come into recovery, who get sober from drug or alcohol addiction, shouldn't be doing any dating for their first year of sobriety. But why is this? It sounds kind of crazy, right? I mean, dating is an important and natural part of life. How can you just tell someone to go totally abstinent from it for a year? I mean, people aren't nuns and monks after all. They have needs, they're human. Well, despite the fact that it may sound a little crazy if someone says it to you, there is a very, very good reason that this rule exists. People who get addicted to drugs and alcohol tend not to be very well adjusted. Crazy, I know, right? They were never really good at dealing with life to begin with. So when they discovered drugs and alcohol, this miracle cure that let them deal with life and feel comfortable in their own skin, they clung on. They clung on desperately. They had found something that made it possible and made it easy and fun for them to deal with life from day to day instead of just suffering through it. So they clung on desperately and they got addicted, and the rest is history, all the years of suffering and consequences that came along with that. But eventually they get to the point where they decide to get sober, and in sobriety that crutch is taken away and people are forced to learn to deal with life using skills and tools instead of just drinking or smoking or shooting up or taking a pill. And this process can be very painful, and it often is painful, but it's also healthy and it's also necessary. It's where people finally learn to be comfortable with themselves and to survive without chemical help. But dating can get in the way of all this. First of all, there are all kinds of risks of dating someone who's newly sober or dating someone who drinks and uses when you're newly sober. It's way, way too easy for someone in early recovery to relapse, and this makes it even easier. All it takes is just a little bit of pressure or one bad day, and you can find yourself drinking or using with that partner who doesn't understand why you can't drink or use. Or when you've got two people who are newly sober dating each other, the chance of relapse is effectively doubled, because if one person relapses, and it does happen, they're going to take the other person out with them. So all it takes is that little bad incident and the person's straight back to using. And then, totally separate from this issue, we also have codependency. It is a very real problem for people to put down the drugs and alcohol and just immediately cling on to something else to fill that void. People cling on to exercise or some kind of hobby or job, or more often than anything else, they cling on to a relationship. And they cling desperately onto this new person to fill the void, this new person who just entered their life. And guess what? It doesn't work out. Big surprise. Eventually, the relationship falls apart because it wasn't built on a strong foundation to begin with. And then they're left with absolutely no coping skills, totally miserable, and chances are they go right back to drinking or using. I've seen it happen, and trust me, it is ugly. It is not something that you want to have to go through. So, despite how lame it sounds, the most successful people in recovery are the ones who stay away from dating at first. It's because by the time that they get into a relationship, they are happy and healthy on their own as a human being. They are a whole person, and they're able to bring that whole person, who they are, to the relationship. And since there's a solid foundation for the relationship to be built on, it is that much more likely to be successful. And it doesn't always work out. In the cases where it doesn't work out, these people have a strong foundation in recovery to fall back on because they spent that first year building up tools and skills, building relationships, becoming part of a recovery community. So they have something to fall back on when things go bad, as they sometimes do. It's life, after all. So even when they go through a breakup, even if it's really bad, they stay sober. So maybe waiting a year doesn't seem like such a crazy idea after all.